This is Liberia. After 14 years of war, it is one of the poorest countries in the world. But there has been peace now for 10 years, and many are coming home to rebuild a once failed state.
Basically, African Development Bank is funding 7 different irrigation projects in Liberia, and we were bidding one of them. We bid 3 out of the 7. Last week, we came in second place by $30,000. The one you went to, we won. And then the other thing is technical. My partner is civil engineer, London educated, worked at the Georgia Department of Transportation. I worked at the Georgia Department of Transportation. So on the technical part where we have a good chance. But this is Africa, or this is Liberia. So
Andrick is a project engineer and partner at Walker Robinson International in Liberia. He grew up in the United States.
One bid was for a central bank parking lot. I was still in the US, but I had a Liberian partner that was doing the demolition. So we actually won the bid on paper, but it was taken away from us because of politics. So actually, and how I partnered up with Norman was because I had no job. That I came here because I had won that project. When I got here, I found out the Liberian way. Before the bidding process started, it was promised to a particular company for favors. So that's just it. It was frustrating. I wanted to pack up, but I spent my whole life wanting to come back home and build. You know, I'm a writer, I'm a musician, you know, but I took up civil engineering. At the time, the country was in turmoil. So I spent most of my time educating myself to come and do something. Not that I enjoy engineering, but, you know, I would have taken up English or social work or something, not engineering, you know. I spent most of my savings in the preparation and the move and everything. Because again, I was coming to a job, you know, and not a job as I was going to work for somebody. It was something that I owned that there was going to be profit at the end of the day. Whereas in the U.S., you know, you have your salary, you have your bonuses and things. This was, I'm a contractor finally in my own land. So maybe I could have planned better, but it was out of ignorance. But I survived. I made it.
Liberians are leaving the West to seek opportunities back home. They bring along education and experience, their international networks and capital. Those that stayed behind during the war don't seem fit to compete. But coming home is not always easy. Liberia is a challenging place.
They nearly, armed robbers, they attacked me one night. They took my laptop. And I have to come here, look for a place. When I get the place there, they robbed me. They took my money and ran away. Someone had to come in to say, give me the garage. I said, okay, don't worry. I came here for something. I took the garage and transformed the garage. I put the bathroom, everything in the garage. And I built the front. Because I believe that what I'm going to do, I'll do it. And then my wife came. She said, oh, Dad, you know, it's difficult when you're coming from UK to go and find yourself in this thing. You said, come on.
It's about, I think, 9 to 10 months now. We started in November last year.
How did you learn it?
Actually, we taught ourselves how to do it. Yeah. You have to have the passion in it. If you don't have the passion, you can't do this because it's hard.
Mr. and Mrs. Yu's problem is not passion. Their problem is access to finance. A loan of more than $500 is hard to come by, and those fortunate enough face tough conditions and interest rates of 15 to 20%. With all ingredients produced locally, Harvest herbal soap is one of few truly Liberian products, but in the markets it has to compete against cheap chemical soap imported from China. In the same part of Monrovia, Mr. Ketter runs security, equipment and logistics, a private security company.
When the Taylor regime came into play, from talking to people on the ground and seeing the situation on the ground, I felt it was my duty I felt obligated, to come to Liberia to help to turn things around. So I made an attempt to come in as a presidential candidate. But later when I arrived in Africa, in Ghana, the whole plan was changed because that election for that year was canceled. And they canceled the election only to set up an interim government or transitional government, which I also contested for the leadership of the transitional government. I didn't win the election, so I decided to come to Liberia and do something else that I could do to make whatever contribution I could make, which was in the security area. And that's where I'm at today.
Mr. Ketter had left Liberia long before the war, along with many other Congos, the descendants of freed slaves.
I didn't leave because of the war. We left because of the coup. My mother's boyfriend at the time, my younger brother's father, was one of the men that the 8 men that Doe tied up and assassinated after the president was killed. So we left. Last year was my first time coming back to Liberia. I came back pursuing a bid. And what I learned, we ended up losing it to Chico, or Seco. Chico got it for 165 million. The project is more than 165 million. The project is more like 190. But if you read the Liberian newspaper, you see Chico is now having labor issues with the Liberian government. The internationals are in competition because and this is the truth, very few law-abiding companies are interested in doing business in Liberia if it's not extractive business, if that makes sense, because of the corruption, because there's no real transparency, because you really don't know why you win or lose outside of if it's World Bank, African Development Bank, where there's a mechanism already in place for some form of transparency.
Is there a Liberian way of doing business?
Yeah. The Liberian way of doing business is you definitely pay to play.
Approximately now I have about 45 employees, and I have not been open for a long time, but I have 45 steady employees, and it's steadily growing. The highest paid employee I have now makes about $100 a month, and he has a rank of a lieutenant colonel. The lowest employee makes $60 because that's where we start. Some of them are ex-military, a few of them are ex-fighters, and they are just all integrated because some people didn't have any security experience when they started working, and then we train them. We want to still expand the private investigation aspect of our company because it's maybe in the near future you may have a lot of private investigation firms. Right now there's no competition and the demand is very high. You have a lot of expatriates and people coming back from the States and Europe and other countries. They've been there for 15, 20 years during the duration of the war. And these people own property in Liberia and own valuables. And a lot of times I run into these people They know or they heard that they own property somewhere and they cannot locate it. They don't know where to begin.
Even after 10 years of peace, security in Liberia remains a big concern. There are still 8,000 UN military and police personnel in the country. The United Nations mission in Liberia is helping to build the capacity of the local security forces so these can take over more responsibilities in the future. Liberians seem to be a peaceful people, but the wars cost 400,000 lives and atrocities were committed on all sides. The International Criminal Court recently sentenced former President Charles Taylor for war crimes in neighboring Sierra Leone, and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommended banning President Johnson Sirleaf from holding public office. She remains in power and in 2011 was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. But the security situation does not only depend on UN troop presence.
Some minor crimes, sometimes some crimes, but mostly everything was okay.
Liberia seems safe during the day, but thousands of trained fighters are out of work. Only 5% of the population are formally employed, leaving the rest to hustle, to live from day to day in a struggle to survive. Liberian nights can be dangerous.
The major problem or the major threat we have with the night shift is we have sometimes there are armed robbers. They're in gangs, in groups, sometimes 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 or 15. And these guys are armed with AK-47s and pistols and whatnot, so they come to various areas where they can get anything valuable, and they just go in there and take what they want. My security have reported that on a number of occasions they see the armed robbers walking around, passing around. They'll call the police, and the police, most of the time, they are slow to respond. Yes, it's still a problem. The armed robbery is still a problem. They are isolated incidences, but it's still a problem.
The local police is taking over responsibilities from the UN, but wages are low and corruption is epidemic.
Everybody start to talk about the UN, pulling out. They're going to be reducing their troops and whatnot. Eventually, Liberia will have to be responsible to maintain their own security.
I think it will create opportunities for you?
Yes, it will create opportunities for everybody in the private security area, because that is where we will have to take on more responsibility. Police wouldn't have the manpower to deal with all aspects of security, so they would depend on the private security now to fill in the void, whereby now, because the UN is here, the police have time to do other work, but when the UN is not here, the police and the AFL will take on the prime responsibility of securing the country, and then now you have the private security doing most of what the police are doing now, like community policing and things like that. Private security would be probably doing that.
The UN is a major economic factor and big employer in Liberia. The economy is otherwise mostly resource-based. Rubber, timber, iron ore and palm oil attract foreign investment in the billions. But only few jobs have been created.
The first thing that you need for any kind of stability is a middle class. There's no middle class here. There's no means of creating a middle class. There's no discussion or talk about creating a middle class. So what happens when UNMIL leaves? What happens when all these NGOs leave? The present small middle class that's making a good living off of them is gone, because you haven't created enough wealth for a lot of people to sustain those businesses.
There are so many emerging sectors, but one primary sector that I will look at is the agriculture sector. Yeah, because we have the land, we have the soil, And we have everything that it takes to be successful in agriculture. Yeah, even when it comes to the species, for those who want to maybe go into animal farm, people who want to go to the fishery, people who want to go to crops production. There are so many, all right, from the aquatic end to the crop and to cash crop or vegetable and what have you. We have what it takes to be successful in agriculture, because food security now worldwide is a major concern. Even in a sub-region, if a Liberian is committed to invest into agriculture, you can supply Liberia, you can export, and even you can supply the international market.
Marcus Sawe runs a business service and entrepreneurship development center at the University of Liberia. He trains aspiring entrepreneurs together with two Dutch organizations, Spark and the BID Network. At one of their events, I met Kpoto, a university student who recently started a farm near Monrovia.
Liberia is a post-war country. For now, you find out that almost everybody are crying from here and there. There's no food. So in a way, we can alleviate some of these problems. We cannot keep on dwelling on the sustainable farming. We have to step in the commercial farming. That will help us, because if we can produce for the citizen, we not rely on other people to import food in our countries. Unless Liberia, we are not found ourselves in such a society for government to step in, in helping farmers. This is one of the main reasons that you find out that most of the farmers in Africa or in Liberia are very poor, because they don't have the opportunity to get such assistance from government. You see, so there's no any subsidy for farmers in Liberia. One of the difficult aspects for we young people that come here to see young men like us in the farming field, more especially sometimes we get on campus, somebody asks you, oh, what course are you doing or reading? Probably you tell somebody, say, oh, I'm a farmer. People may just feel that maybe just to take color and go into the bush. And for our own perspective or for our own standpoint of view, farming does not go in that land. In other countries, farmers are highly respected. There are people that people respect in the society. There are people that, in fact, live on first-class level. These are rich people. But unless Liberia, people look down to farmers, they are bush people.
Not far from Kpoto, Mrs. Yuri runs a farm, but they are worlds apart. Wuki Farm is the biggest livestock and vegetable farm in the country. It features a resort with swimming pool and a Yuri's personal residence.
I can tell you, we've a lot of the businesses, I don't know if you've talked what the others are saying, we've had to do a lot of downsizing. Because I can tell you there are times where I have to use my personal funds, to lend to the farm. We don't even bother to go for financing and funding. We just have to make do with what you have.
The chairman of the company, Mr. Yuri, is said to be one of the richest men in the country. He is also suspected of acting as Charles Taylor's money handler during the war.
I got this dream. Actually, my field is actually IT, information technology, but I got this from living in Southern Africa, because most people live on their farms in Southern Africa. So that's where I got that idea from. Yeah, I spent during the war. Most of my time was spent around Africa. I was responsible for many countries in Africa, so I traveled a lot.
The farm surely has seen better days. Production runs at a minimum, and it seems as if most of the produce is in fact consumed by guests at the resort.
I don't know why we have never been an entrepreneurial people. We've never been. We've basically worked for government, and so I think it's the next generation of the generation right after us that's going to be willing to just make that move. I think we are a bit skeptical. at present about doing that.
Many Liberians aspire to work for government. It is a promising way out of poverty. The political landscape, though, is highly fragmented and potential for violence remains.
It's a political power struggle, and usually it's expected, you know, but more to that, I think the representatives of the people, you know, should really be in touch with the people and let them know the real, true state of affairs of the country. Because if it's just a regular, common, average Liberian, they don't really care about what's going on in the Congress, in the House, and whatnot. The only thing they want to know is that their family is secure, their children go to good schools, they get good education, and they can sleep in peace at night. They know that at the end of the day, they have food to eat. And that's all they're concerned with. But then you have the people who have political ambition who go out there and tell the people, well, things are not secure. Things could be better. Things could be this way. And they don't have any idea how they're going to do it.
Liberia is looted from all sides. Corrupt officials, foreign corporations, religious institutions and greedy individuals. Everyone wants to get a share of the nation's wealth, and the average Liberian gets left behind.
There are some opportunities, but it could be, there's a lot of room for improvement. It could be more opportunities, you know, and we are the ones that make the opportunities available if we start to look at the whole community rather than looking at ourselves. You see there's a lot of opportunity, but a lot of times people look at themselves, you know, they want to be financially secure, and then they can start to look at other people. But then how long would that take? It might take a whole lifetime, you know. So for me, I'm not financially secure, but as I'm trying to get financially secure, I try to bring up other people, you know, along with me.
What is your vision? Like you said, you want to employ as many Liberians as possible. Like, what would you do different about their status or their situation or
the
training?
The pay, man. You gotta pay people. People have to be able to live. It cost me $20,000 to build my house. So $23,000, I have a 3,000 square foot house that the only thing I gotta pay for is energy. You understand? So how much money does a person really need? You understand? So if I have a company and I'm doing good, why can't I give to other people? Why can't they do good too for their own family? You know, you got incentives for your children, for your employees' children, as far as school. You know, a college education, a good college education in Liberia is $600-700 a year tuition. $600-700 a year tuition. I know people who drink from just casually moving around. They don't drink themselves, but buying for other people, and this is what they do when girlfriend casually drink $600-700 a week. So why can't you? If you got an employee and they're doing well, why you can't have scholarships for their kids to go to college? For school, for high school, all that it's maybe $100. What's $100? You know, so that's what I would do different.
LIB's in the building. Ted World's in the building. Liberia, where I'm from. Dumb niggas get back in the make way. Let me take this shit way back to 88. That's right before the war when we was ready to rock shit. Then, yeah, that's the strap. We was supposed to migrate across borders. Teenagers, street soldiers, stand warriors with guts and minds like Charles Taylor. Abidjan to Amsterdam, we rub shoulders. Steadily grinding for the paper, shimming the haters. Mingling with different cultures, different encounters with the real world. Seeing the truth from the bullshit it taught us. It's all over. Back home with the mind state of a big picture to build me a new future. I'm a product of a failed state. Yup, I carry the weight of mistakes made by the ex-slaves and the forefathers. Clement Jacob's ladder won't come down. Energized by the sun, so I'm bound to shine. Won't recline to the light. lock and load that made the motor substantially my cash.